did we screw something up?
All right, Daryl, you can proceed.
Believe it or not, we are going to move to our next proclamation, which is Proclamation 12-07. This is where we discuss our wildlife management hunting area seasons. And I'd like to introduce Tim White, who is primarily our waterfowl coordinator, but he's assuming the new role of kind of being this public land coordinator. We're still figuring out what exactly he's going to be doing, but we put him in charge this year of trying to get the rules and regulations on our WMAs in order, and Tim will present this proclamation.
Thank you, Daryl. Commissioners. And I just want to point out that I am the messenger here. So. I'll go ahead and get started. And if it's all right, I asked Daryl if it was all right if I made a comment on the previous discussions regarding small game seasons and wildlife management areas. And since we're going to talk about wildlife management areas, I am new to this job, and I'd like to say I believe I do now. I'm the Migratory Game Bird Program and Wildlife Management Area Program Coordinator. I believe I have the longest title in the agency. I think I do, so if that carries any weight. But regarding what we're doing on our wildlife management areas, and as Daryl mentioned, we've got a quail plan, we've got a strategic plan underway, and we've got a lot of plans, a lot of planning, and this it's just come due now. That strategic plan expired. But maybe we haven't done as much as we could have at all times on our management areas. But prior to being the waterfowl guy, I was the small game program coordinator for 5 years. And I've seen in 12 years, I've seen us make a radical shift in how we manage our WMAs. And I just want to defend us just a little bit because 12 years ago when I first came, we had fescue on our WMAs, and Director Myers at that time, directed that we get rid of fescue other than around a building or something. And we had an aggressive campaign of planting native warm season grasses and prescribed burning, and we're doing more prescribed burning now on our WMAs than we've ever done before. And so, in wildlife management, we have the 3 tools of wildlife management. We call it the axe, the plow, and the match. And we've been really using the match a lot more. We've got burn teams, a lot of burn training that we've put in. So we're not sitting on our laurels. It's just that there may be a better concerted way to do this. I mean, it's kind of been a scattergun approach to do what you can where you can, as opposed to a targeted approach, which I think maybe what we're going to move towards is trying to focus efforts a little bit better and tie them in with other kinds of plans. And that early successional habitat, we call it quail habitat, but it's really wildlife habitat. It's turkey nesting cover, it's deer forage, it's rabbits. It really benefits most of our game species. So with that being said, I will move into our wildlife management area proclamation. A little background information. We have about 130 WMAs and state refuges statewide. 1.47 million acres, and that's give or take a little bit. Of course, our lands are owned by TWRA, TDEC, Division of Forestry, U.S. Forest Service, Corps of Engineers, TVA, Department of Energy. We got a wide range of partners in all the different lands that we own and manage. Approximately 80% of our seasons are open with statewide. We have some exceptions on areas where we may have an area closed to quail hunting, or we may have a bag reduction on something. We have a special youth adult hunt, a big game quota hunt, but for the majority of our areas, they're open with statewide seasons. In this proclamation, we made standard date changes for the calendar. We have some routine wording and clarifications, and we consider all that pretty much housekeeping. So I'm not going to cover the housekeeping today. I'm just going to go to the major changes, significant changes. And if you run across something in the proclamation that I'm not covering, that you all have a copy of that red line, please bring it up. I'll be glad to answer anything that you have a question about that I don't cover. With that being said, we're going to move to Region 1. And 2 of the significant changes we have were simply on Pagoda and Thorny Cypress. We clarified areas that were open for small game hunting, And we improved some hunter options for the waterfowl quota hunt. I think in the past, the hunters were required to hunt together they drew an impoundment to hunt, but they had to hunt together. Now we'll let them spread out within that impoundment, maybe increase their success minor. And in Ernest Rice, on Moss Island, they had removed one deer muzzleloader hunt. I know Commissioner Cannon and Commissioner Griggs had questions about our public dove field program. Last year we leased about 1,191 acres, and we provided about 1,300 acres on our wildlife management areas. And I know Commissioner Griggs had concerns that maybe Region 1 wasn't getting as much distribution as some of the other regions. And so I know the director's spoken to regional folks, and they're certainly going to have an increased emphasis on providing more opportunities on WMAs and better distribution of these lease fields among the regions. So that's something that we've been tasked with, and something that we're going to make a concerted effort to address. Which brings us to the Region 2 recommendations. The first would be regarding AEDC. We have an area that we're going to close to small game hunting. That area requires quite a bit of consultation with the Air Force to have it open, and in the last 3 years, even despite the consultation, we weren't able to open it, so they're going to close that area, again, because it's rarely available. The Air Force has requested to close turkey hunting after 12 on Unit 3. There's a bike trail there that they're going to, it's a multiple use area, so they're going to basically close the turkey hunting at noon. They're removing some December archery hunts in Units 2 through 6. They wanted to provide a little bit of additional small game hunting, and there was virtual no utilization of those hunts. On Haynes Bottom, we're going to prohibit horseback riding during the big game hunts. It apparently was a safety issue, and that was a recommendation from the region. On Laurel Hill, we made some increases in raccoon hunting. They moved one gun hunt to the muzzleloader season, and they removed an antler restriction on the youth hunts. On Region 3, regarding wild hog, we did add some language to several WMAs. That was basically an amendment last year after the WMA proc passed, so that was added in here. And that was that wild hogs may be taken during any deer hunt. On Catoosa, there was a wild hog control season added January 7 through 16. A season added to Skinner Mountain January 18 through 20. On South Cherokee, they consolidated the wild hog hunts into bear and or deer hunts, which resulted in an increase of 10 days of bear dog hunting and an increase of 7 days of deer hunting. And they closed the Tellico and Ocoee Bear Reserves to raccoon hunting, and which was a request by the U.S. Forest Service. We also established seasons and hours for areas with firing ranges. Several of the WMAs had firing ranges on it, and those firing ranges had specific hours, but they weren't in a proclamation, so they just wanted to put that in proclamation and proclamate those hours and times for those firing ranges. Chickamauga, we moved Sale and Soddy Creek to a separate unit and increased some restrictions. Apparently those areas have a lot of urban development, and they needed some hunting restrictions there for safety issues. And we just made some clarifications on wording regarding hunting during the waterfowl season. It was basically a wording issue where it was unclear if deer hunting was allowed during the waterfowl hunting, and it was not, but they just made some wording changes to clarify that. On Cordell Hall, we had a request from the Corps of Engineers to move the Defeated Creek area into a separate unit. Again, development's an issue, and so that new unit will have some restrictions regarding some archery and muzzleloader type deals. On North Chickamauga Creek, we're removing the Flipper Bend unit of North Chickamauga Creek Gorge State Natural Area, and I believe Region 3 is pursuing terminating that lease agreement. We're closing the Rogers, Hickson, Vandergriff, and Varner units to all forms of trespass except hunting and trapping during the late waterfowl seasons. And that was a request from several hunting groups, I guess, down that way. I believe that was who requested that, and it was to reduce waterfowl disturbance on the rest days to improve hunting. And so what it is, the waterfowl hunting is on basically alternate days, and they were obviously to allow the waterfowl to rest on the off days and build up, and there was quite a bit of disturbance during that time. So they requested a closure during waterfowl season just for that reason. So also at the Volunteer Army Ammunition Plant, we moved one archery hunt and created a wounded warrior hunt, which the U.S. Armed Services will select the hunters for that hunt. Moving on to Region 4. On the North Cherokee, we basically had routine date changes and clarification of training hours. On Chuck Swan, we had some deer hunt restrictions. We've seen that deer population go down, and so they wanted to institute some restrictions there. And we made a few quail restrictions at Kiker Bottoms, Yoshim Bible Refuge, Lick Creek Bottoms, and Cowles Ford. They've done quite a bit of work there and continue to do quite a bit of small game work there. And so they're trying to protect some areas as they continue to work on them, and some areas that are small. They're trying to, like Kiker Bottoms is extremely small, maybe less than 400 acres, but they have as many as 60 or 70 hunters on an opening day, rabbit and quail hunters. So it's kind of getting out of hand on some of those areas. And with that being said, I would be glad to entertain questions regarding the Wildlife Management Area Proclamation.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions from the commission? Comments?
I just want to thank you for the effort y'all putting forth in Region 1 on the dove hunt. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Two quick comments. One is, well done on partnering with the hunting community as far as wild hog control efforts. Personally, I really appreciate it.
Well, I can't take any credit for that. I'm sorry to say, I wish I could, but that's really been that Region 3 and 4 guys, and Darrell and Gray. They have really done the lion's share of work on that. So
Well,
they're
thank
to be
you.
thanked.
Thank you. It's greatly appreciated. One point of clarification, and this is the engineer in me, okay? First page, under Section 1, General, number 13, dog training is year-round unless otherwise indicated. In some places, we say that it's daylight hours only, and in other areas, it may be implied that it could be any time of day. Is that true, or do we have time restrictions?
Could you add one more time which one you're talking
It's the
about?
very first page.
Yes, sir.
Number 13, dog training is year-round unless otherwise indicated. And I noticed that some of the WMAs call out, for instance, there's no dog training on Catoosa. There's some that call out daylight hours only. If it's not called out daylight hours only, does that mean that it's 24/7 dog training, or that's just to educate me, y'all?
I mean, daytime only, except for
For the most part, dog training, according to TCA, dog training is a form of hunting. And according to TCA, you can only do it during daylight hours only. There are exceptions. It's raccoon, fox, and bullfrog. Possum, bullfrog. Kind of bad. You can hunt bullfrogs at night. Not with dogs, though. For the most part, dog training is daylight hours only, except for those 3 species. And we'll make better clarification on what
Yeah, I'm
we
wondering
mean
if
by-
it may just something there unless otherwise noted. It's daylight hours only. That's just a
Yes.
suggestion.
And the one thing that I definitely want to mention, and this is part our fault as much as anyone, due to the abbreviated time we have for the season setting, the WMA proclamation's a bear, trying to get everything right for every WMA. And every once in a while, just within the last few days, someone will write in and let us know, or call us on the phone and say, oh, there is an error here or there. We're continuously making the proper edits. We're not trying to pull any wool over anyone's eyes. We'll continue to provide you the updated WMA, because there might be a few things that Tim breezed over everything real quickly, and you see stuff in here. We'll definitely make sure the commission has all the recommended changes that we're trying to bring forward. And if you don't see something, it's not on purpose. It's just editing issues where we're trying to get the proclamation correct.
Darrell, just for clarity, no wool factor implied, I assure you. You're just educating me on the hours here, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I'm Patrick Garrison, which been up here before, but anyway. I do appreciate you adding the wild hog season back for guys. I know that was one of our top things in Region 3, and appreciate Kurt for working hard on that. Did have a question. What about the training seasons? I know, did you have any thought on training seasons back on Catoosa?
Go ahead, Daryl.
I may refer to Kirk Miles regarding that. And the one thing I would like to mention on Catoosa, we don't have much details other than it's a 10-day wild hog control season. There has been some concerns from Region 3, and they're definitely really good concerns regarding how that's going to work. So you may see within a short period of time some regulations for safety concerns, such as requirements for blaze orange and things like that, just for safety issues. But for the most part, it'll be a 10-day season in which we have these people pursue the hogs on Catoosa to help us out.
Daryl, you're gonna require that they check those hogs out so we can keep up with that?
Yes, that's something we prepared a short list, or Kirk brought it to me today, a short list of things that they'd like to see. Some of those we need to discuss within our agency, but there's definitely some issues just off the top of our head. The safety issues with the blaze orange and what time and the weapon requirements that we'll have, and all that relates to safety. Another recommendation that they wanted to put in there is to check the hogs in for us to do the disease testing on the animals. And so there's going to be a couple of bullet points, and we're discussing whether or not we add those to the proclamation or just reference in the proclamation that certain restrictions may apply.
It did specify with hounds, didn't it? I didn't.
It is, yes, it is.
I thought I'll make sure.
Kirk, if you'd like to address.
This one.
To answer Patrick's question about the dog training, yes, we did consider it. In the overall plan or wild hog control plan for Catoosa, which now includes the wild hog control season, our hog trapping, we didn't feel like that the training season now was a good time to bring that back onto the area and fit that into our overall scheme of things that we have going on there now.
Thank you, Kurt. That's something we would like for you to consider, if there's any way we get, some training season for coyote and bobcat stuff. But that's, other than that, I, appreciate the hog thing. One other thing that we had talked about a little bit about, I know for the quail and stuff and habitat on Catoosa, if there's any way maybe that you could work with some farmers or something to get some fields planted and some more stuff too, may be another possibility. But that was another concern on Catoosa, was more, for small game and turkey and stuff like that too, but that's a big concern of our group, so appreciate you considering that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Anyone else? Go
I
ahead,
had
Jim.
one question on that wild hog control effort. Now that, since you don't have to have a hunting license for that, anybody can come in from out of state as long as they get a WMA permit and hunt, and help in this control effort.
We've had discussions with our legal department, and that was a concern, because off of Catoosa, whether or not you're a landowner or if you are on an exemption that a landowner has, you are not required to have a hunting license in order to kill wild hogs. And their concern was having a disparate regulations where we would require them to have a license when nobody else is required to have a license. And so the feeling that we have from our legal counsel is that we cannot require that they have a license in order to kill hogs. However, we do believe we could still have them purchase a WMA permit to be on the WMA.
That was what I was wondering. Thank you.
Thank you. Rodney?
Yeah, I'm Rodney Burris, Cherokee Houndsman Association, and once again, we're back up with the Bear Reserve stuff. I just want to thank the commission for what they did last year and giving us a chance to that. We thought we pretty much had done what, we said we'd do and things. Didn't know this caught us off guard this week. I'll be honest, look back at my records last night. I've been coming since 2000, and we've been fighting this one battle on this one place since 2004. So it really is not surprising, but we're open to any meetings or anything we can do with the agency or with the Forest Service or whatever to work out some guidelines to allow the ones that do right. It's like everything you talk about here, you just don't want to cut it out. And, you know, I hate it's come down to this, and it leads into other things, hard feelings and all that, but I think our group and a lot of the other groups in the area is always willing to sit down and try to work out something. And once again, I think we fell down on the communication part. You know, I find out about this late Tuesday or Wednesday, and here we are, and you know, that's the bad part, that we've not kind of got into any kind of communication. As far as all the bar season and stuff, we appreciate it, and I appreciate everything the commission and the commissioners has done for us last year. Thank you.
Rodney? Right. Yeah.
I apologize. I know y'all were here last year some, so, you know, we lost the raccoon season in the bear reserves. And since 2004, I believe this will be the second time or third time we've lost them. You know, I brought the proclamation. They brought this agency when they come to the counties wanting to put them in 1981. That was one of the things the agency always said. You know, we would get, there's a dog regulations for all 6 of them in this. And, you know, and I know this has come from the Forest Service. But, you know, let's see here. 53,825 acres. And like I said, I thought we done good, and it's just been a battle, and we've never been known to just quit and go home, so we'll keep it up. Yes, sir.
Specify which bar reserves you're talking about.
It's the Ocoee, Tellico, and Ocoee Bar Reserve, South Cherokee, out of the 6. So, yeah, they have some law enforcement issues with it, and I don't think it's ever been a surprise. But it's an area that, you know, when they put it in the sanctuary in '81, they promised that we'd always be able to hunt it, and we've lost it 3 or 4 times, and we just don't know where we'll go from here, but we won't quit fighting to keep it. Just think there could have been some changes made to keep it open. I think we just kind of run ourselves against the wall here and see what happens in the next 30 days. Might not be nothing this year, but like I said, we just keep trying, see where we go from here. But last year, a couple of the commissioners and the media all give us a chance and give it back, and we really do appreciate it. Because I know I was over 3 times, me and my wife. I didn't see a lot of things they say went on, but that don't mean it didn't. I won't. But I think it could be corrected to the point we could put it back if we got all parties to sit down and try to come up with a solution. Thank you.
Rodney, I just want to say, and we've talked privately or when we were here today, it's not your group and it's not your people that's the problem. And as you know, I know Anthony Hicks is terribly upset about this. He's a coon hunter, and from what all of our people tell us, both you and he are people that are straight up, that when you tell us something, we can believe it. So it's kind of like everything else in the world. There's a few bad eggs and everybody else has to suffer for it. And anything that you all can do to either help the agency or the Forestry Service to eliminate some of the rotten apples out of the barrel may go towards something else happening at some point in time. But it's, I don't want you to think that we believe you or your group's to blame for it.
Thank you, Chairman. Anyone else? All right, Tim, continue.
The next proclamation I'd like to bring up would be the National Wildlife Refuges Proclamation. To be honest with you, this is a proclamation that we have very little input to. This is basically what the National Federal Fish and Wildlife Service Refuges tell us they would like to have for their seasons. So they passed, our Region 1 folks, primarily these are in Region 1, and they coordinate this effort with these folks and get these recommendations in. And these are the changes that we have this year. There's some minor changes, mostly liberalizations to deer seasons at Hatchie, Chickasaw, Lower Hatchie, Sunk Lake, Reelfoot, Lake Isom. No changes to Tennessee National, Cross Creeks, or Big South Fork. And there'll be minor changes and clarifications to the general regulation section. In other words, they added some no alcohol, no baiting type issues like that in their general regulation section. And I believe that's all we had for that proclamation.
Commission comments, questions for Tim? Audience? All right, thank you, Tim, appreciate it. Go ahead,
I
Darrell.
believe we need to take a quick break to change that.
Yes, let's take a quick 2-minute break.